Double Fries No Slaw. I'm getting yelled at in my texts already for not being on time. We had a couple of things that we were trying to get done on the back end, and so give us a little bit of grace. But we did show up here after Florida State drops their second game of the year to Miami. TJ Pinger, Richie Barnes. We'll talk all about that. Richie, outside of maybe the 3 hours of last night's game, really like 4 hours when you think about how many commercial breaks there are. How's your weekend been?
It was good, honestly. I got to enjoy college football leading up to it. I did pick us to win the game last night, but it was nice to watch some. There weren't a lot of good noon games, but the 3:30 slate ended up being pretty entertaining. Vandy made it interesting for a bit. Obviously, there was a big upset in Gainesville. It was a good day of college football, and at least we didn't get blown out because we are right on the edge of that potentially happening in our home stadium. So it's good to see that the team showed a little bit of fight. Church this morning and just relaxing all day today watching the NFL. How about you?
It was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, obviously we'll talk about the game in a minute, but we had a great time in Tallahassee. I got in on Friday and I had a great time when I got up there. Something to actually talk about from that came out of Friday. But then I went to the soccer game. Soccer team won 3-0. We split. If you think about it that way, if it makes people feel better, it makes no one feel better. I understand. But we split soccer and football. So little, it's a very small. I understand that's a small silver lining for folks. But and then had a really good night Friday night. Saw some friends that were in town and enjoyed the evening. Saw some friends that were in town, obviously a lot of people come to town and stuff, but good Friday night, good Saturday morning. Tailgate was a lot of fun. We set up in a new spot and we had a ton of people come by, which was really fun and we enjoyed it. And then the game, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I don't want to get to that. But then after the game, it was still a good weekend overall. The game didn't go the way you wanted, but still a great weekend in Tallahassee. And listen, is what it is. Life happens, I guess. But Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit all three of their locations, 1818 West Tennessee Street, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachian Parkway. We always appreciate them for their support. Richie, let's get into it. Florida State drops to Miami. Big takeaway here. Big thoughts. We'll dive into some of the key things that were maybe frustrating or kind of didn't go the Noles' way. But what was your big takeaway here?
I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit, but you could definitely tell there is a difference between the two rosters, right? Yeah. And there's things that led up to that. But let me ask you this: if I had told you that Florida State would have 28 first downs to Miami's 14, would have nearly 70 more total yards than Miami, held Miami under 100 rushing yards, and Miami would have almost the triple amount of penalties for far more than double the amount of yards, what would your score prediction have been if you knew all of that heading in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm cheating because I know the answer, but I mean, I would have liked FSU to have a much better chance. The big one you left off, and maybe where we should start here is the turnovers.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, we can talk about this too, but the turnovers were huge and two of them kind of in scoring range. I mean, Weinberg's got a big leg. And so I think one of them happened to the 37. The other one may have happened inside the 40 as well.
46.
One of them. And the yardage total or the yardage differential is cut significantly. If you think about the yardage they got on the interception return, right? And the way their offense was moving at that point, listen, the defense, I don't know that the defense was the major problem in this game. No. The defense probably played better than I expected. But the issue, the issue was the offense couldn't get going for so long. And really until Miami kind of pulled. But let's not jump ahead because let's answer your question. The turnovers were the difference because they did some things well offensively. They drove the ball a little bit. That first drive was really good. And listen, I don't know how that DPI was missed. I don't think it impacts the result of the game, but it does kind of change things. Only getting 3 on that first really good drive where you had the crowd into it. When they had to settle for the field goal on the first drive, you could feel like a collective sigh in this. Like you could feel like the air kind of being let out of that was your chance, right? That was your chance to go up 7. And then, Miami scores 4 touchdowns in a row. They went up 28-3 at one point. it just felt like you were in such desperation mode. You had to go for it on a fourth down. You had a couple other turnovers. If they score 2 touchdowns in a row and make it 14-7, maybe you're still like, we're just a touchdown down. We can do this, right? But I think that having such a good drive, a good scripted drive, and that not going your way felt like it took a collective sigh out. Felt like it gave Miami some energy and their offense, early. I mean, we said this, like, don't let them beat you running the ball. Make Beck beat you. And with a couple of those deep balls to Tony, who's an absolute stud, I mean, they did. Beck was good enough to beat you. Like, he never, put the ball in harm's way too much. Like, he took care of it. Florida State couldn't get any kind of a pass rush. Their defensive line was awful. I think they had 4 quarterback pressures like the whole game. And that's from like all the defensive linemen. So theoretically, you could get all 4 of those on one play. I don't think that's what happened. But I thought the run defense was pretty good. They did a good job of loading the box up and not letting Miami run all over them. But there was no pass rush. And if you don't have a pass rush, Carson Beck is very capable enough and good enough to just absolutely dice you up. And that's what he did.
Yeah, no, and I going back to that first drive, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback it, right? Or Sunday evening quarterback it, as we're doing right now. I almost feel, and I thought it in the moment, so it's not just me looking back at it. I think they should have gone for it on 4th and 5, or 4th and goal from Miami's 5 on that first drive. You just had all the momentum in the world in your favor, and I get you take the points when you can. It's early on, you're an underdog, but you're only a 4.5 point dog, so it's not like you're looking for a bunch of extra things here. I just thought, it would have made a statement if they had gone for it and got it. Now Miami is like, oh crap, these guys came to play. In worst case, you don't get it, and Miami's not driving the ball 95 yards out of the student section, which is where they were at. So I don't know. Again, it's easy to say now that I think they probably should have, but at the same time, I understand you take the points. It's early, let the game play itself out. But thoughts on that? Do you think they should have gone, or did you in the moment think maybe go for it here?
I didn't, because you just been stopped several times from there. Like, if you'd have had, 3rd and 12 and gotten 7 yards and set up like kind of a short 4th down, but like, you probably on that 3rd and 5, right from the 5, you probably ran what you thought was your best play.
Fair.
And so then you're having to go, like, if you get stopped, and I know that we'll all say it was DPI, but like, you also ran your set. You probably ran it the play before that too. Your best couple of plays. And so where you're going to throw another fade, which is pretty low percentage. Like they get caught 13% of the time or something ridiculous. It's like 13 or 18. I saw an article the other day. And then you ran your next best play on 3rd down. You didn't get it, so you weren't gaining any yardage. If you had gotten it down to like the 3-yard line or the 2-yard line, you'd shown some kind of progress. Maybe then I'd buy it. But yeah, I don't think you could have had that first drive and not come away with any points. And that would have, you kind of made it close in the end. I mean, that would have potentially spelled, disaster. So I didn't really, I would have loved for them to have a touchdown, but in the moment I was like, nah, just kick the field goal and go. Your defense is going to have to play better than we thought it, would at times. But I don't know. Nah, I was more on that. The offense was frustrating.
Yes.
And I do think Miami has a good defense, and their defensive line is really good. An injury to Micah Pettis, I don't think he ever came back in the game. The run game just completely died once that was the case. Tommy scrambled for a couple. He tried to do too much in this game. He was, and the interceptions, like when they're arm punts, obviously the one got returned for a ton. When they're 40 yards down the field, 30 yards down the field, they don't bother me as much because of where you're turning the ball over. You are erasing a chance for you to score. But you're trying to make a play, and the other team's going to make plays on stuff. And we just looked pretty desperate on offense. Outside of that scripted drive in the first half, it did. And really for the first 3 quarters, we didn't do a lot offensively. They just felt desperate. Like, it felt like he was off his game. He wasn't very sharp. Their pass rush was really good. He knew their pass rush was really good. And Tommy just wasn't incredibly sharp at all.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the box scores. You may have already seen this. Do you know how many times Tommy threw the football?
I'm going to say too many.
45 times.
Ace in the game, yeah.
That's insanity to me. And I think he's a more than capable passer. So I'm not saying he's just a running back playing quarterback. That's not the case at all. But I think, and to be fair, getting down by so many points as Florida State did, you have to start throwing the football. So I get it. But that was the other number. I read off some numbers that were really in Florida State's favor at the start of the show. But if you told me that Tommy was going to have 45 passes before the game, he went 25 for 45. So not terrible, but it's not great, obviously. I would have said that's a problem because Gus Malzahn likes to run the football. Again, I was shocked that I watched the game live. And if you were to ask me right after the game, how many times did Tommy throw the football? I would have said, I don't know, 30, 32 times, but no, 45 pass attempts. That's not Florida State's offense. Miami kind of dictated what Florida State had to do. And a lot of that is getting up on a big early lead where Florida State's playing from behind. And 45 passes from a Gus Malzahn offense tells me they were playing from behind the entire game, which they were outside of the first drive.
Surprisingly, and this is not, I'm not trying to silver lining this. I think Tommy has performed better when he's had to just drop back and pass. He's not the most capable passer in the world. There's no doubt. And, that's not even me being a hater. I think most people would agree with that. He's performed better passing the ball than I kind of even assumed he would. I think he's been pretty good at it. When he's had to just drop back and do it, I think he's been better than I expected he would be, right? My take is not that he's some great passer, but I think at times, he found some guys on the sideline. He found some guys over the middle. He misses some guys too. There's no doubt. He's not perfect. The risky passes of the interceptions, you can't have those, especially the one that gets returned all the way back down into scoring range for them and sets up a short field. But that's not on Tommy that we couldn't get the guy down or make a tackle. That's not his fault. When you're kind of throwing an arm punt interception in the end zone anyway, you kind of think well, that's not bad. It's essentially what a touchback would have been anyway. It's not the quarterback's fault that the guy is able to get a really nice return off. But yeah, he wasn't even really the problem. The one thing I will say, I think Miami's just really freaking good. I understand that it's frustrating. I was much more upset when we did this last week after the Virginia game. Not even close. I came away from that game thinking, and this sucks. It sucks to admit this. Miami is just a better team. They just are. I think that I've told you for 3 weeks, I thought they were the number one team in the country. And I still think that. I don't think Ohio State and Miami, if you want to go 1-2 there, that's fine. I think they're better than Oregon, and they got moved ahead of Oregon this week, right? I think they're the most impressive team in the country. And for them to go on the road in Doak Campbell and hold the number one offense in the country that dog walked Alabama's defense to basically hold them to just garbage time points. I hate to say that. I'm glad the score looked better than it was, but they held this offense to garbage time points, points that no longer mattered. And I'm glad that we scored it to make it look a little better. That'll probably help us later in the year with rankings or bowls or whatever. But yeah, all of it was garbage time. You scored 2 touchdowns late when Miami just didn't care anymore. And I'm glad they did, because last year this team would have quit and we'd have lost by 40 something. So I do appreciate the effort. There's no doubt. I'd much rather lose by 6 than by 40 like you would have last year. But they're good. And so I'm frustrated because you got all hyped up after Bama and now you're 3-2, but you do have an opportunity to kind of turn things around. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I don't even know how mad are you really? You could be mad from a big picture, but Miami was the better team coming into this thing. They played better. You made more mistakes. You lost the game by 6 points that you had 3 turnovers in, and you were lucky to lose by 6, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. They made crucial mistakes at crucial points in the game, because it's not like they were turning the ball over, on the opposite side of the field, right? They were in plus territory on, I believe, all 3 turnovers. So that's a problem, because you have momentum, you're moving, and to your point, I think Tommy forced one. The one interception was just horrific. It was into double coverage. I don't think it was necessary. Again, it sucks the way it played out, because I do think Florida State played well enough to win the game last night if they don't turn the ball over, but they did. And, as you said, it was a lot of garbage time points and scores for Florida State. So at the end of the day, the best thing is that, technically you only lost by 6 points. Now, nobody watched that game and said, Miami's only 6 points better than Florida State, because if they were to play again, I would pick Miami this time to win probably by more than 6. They are just the better team. They've just compiled a roster that Florida State cannot compete with. Could they win a one-off? Absolutely. But if you were to line them up 10 times, Miami's probably winning 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm frustrated we didn't win, but once you saw those two teams compete, I mean, Florida State just had no chance to get after. I mean, again, they did some things well. They stopped the run better than I thought they would. What did they end up with a rushing total? Do you have that?
97 yards, 3 yards a carry on 32 carries.
Yeah, that's really freaking good for against a Mario Cristobal team. So I know it's all doom and gloom, and I know we're all annoyed, and nobody likes losing to those idiots, but I mean, you played the run better than I thought you would. So I'll give you that. I said that you got to make Beck beat you, and he did. You got beat a couple. If you got beat a couple of times deep, and they finished drives better than you did. You moved the ball well enough. You got into scoring range, and you turned the ball over. And Miami didn't. Miami didn't have a turnover, if I remember correctly.
No.
And they stayed ahead of the chains for the most part. It was pretty easy on Beck. They were consistently falling forward. They did a great job of that. And so, they played much better than you, or they are much better than you. And to me, it's not that deep.
Well, I think, Carson Beck was extremely efficient, 20 of 27, 8.9 yards per pass. But I think this is where, again, I think Florida State, I think Tony White had the right game plan. Do not let them beat you on the ground. However, it exposed you elsewhere. The screens, the deep ball, this Earl Little just got caught, looking at a run, and when he should have really stayed back on the one touchdown on the left side of the end zone, heading in towards the student section again, I believe. They sold out to stop the run. They did that at the cost of what, though? I still think it was the right game plan by Tony White. So by no means do I blame the defense, because if you told me Miami would have 28 points, I probably would have said, I'll take that. I think your score was 30-28. So, I mean, you're right.
There was a moment where I was like, okay, well, here's the comeback.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Yeah. So, if you turn the ball over as much as you do, if you don't finish when the other team is finishing well, this is just kind of what you get, I don't know who could expect too much different than what we got. So they've got a chance to rebound. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And we'll see if anybody has any super chats or anything like that too, and we'll get on. But let me quickly I do want to talk about this from so that's on the game, right? I want to talk about this from more of a big picture standpoint. I do also, Richie, while I was up there on Friday, I got a chance to meet with Tallahassee Ford. And I know that a lot of people just hear that, oh, another Ford, another car dealership or whatever. It was truly one of the coolest meetings I've ever been in. Jonathan Vickers was there. He works for them. I don't know, you guys remember him from the mid to late 2000s. DeAndre Francois stopped by. That was super cool. And he was in there chatting. And it was I know the stereotype of car dealership and, they put this, that, and the other. I'm excited for some of the things that we're going to do with them. They've got their own beer out right now called 1926. They've got a 100-year anniversary coming up. We'll try and get some people like that in some people's hands. Maybe we'll do some event type stuff, whether that's tailgates or whatever, but we've got a lot coming from them. I met with their owner, Bill McKinney, and I just big picture to let you guys know that we've got some stuff cooking for them. Follow them on Instagram. Check out some of the stuff that they're doing. They was a really, really cool experience. And there's a lot more that we will be able to tell you about in the coming days, weeks, months, and any kind of time we can partner with them, whether it's on here or in person. But it was a very neat experience, and I'm excited for what we have coming with them. If you're looking for a car right now too, I guess I'll tell you to go check them out and see if they can save you some money on that. But we'll get more into that at another time. I did want to just kind of give them some love as that was on my mind. So Tallahassee Ford, appreciate them.
Shout them out. I love my Ford Bronco. I probably will not own another car other than a Bronco the rest of my life. It is the favorite car I've ever driven, and I'm sure they have plenty on the lot there.
Yeah, I saw one of those new Broncos, recently. And maybe it was probably there. No, I think it was at Busy Bee, which I'm a glutton for stopping every time I go up. But yeah, I mean, we've had our Expedition for like 3 years and I'm a big fan, and so excited to tell people more about them as the weeks, days, months, all the time goes on. Big picture on Florida State. You want to know why they weren't as good, Richie? And you know this, and we've talked about it, and we've moaned about it, and whined about it, and complained about it, and all the things. They just haven't recruited well enough. Like, and people know that. That's not. Nobody's gonna be surprised by that. But Miami was better than Florida State at just about every facet of the game on Saturday. Right? Maybe you could give a slight edge to the way that our wide receivers played, but their secondary was really good. The interceptions, I mean, you're throwing into double coverage. I don't know what else you really want, but they were better in the trenches. Their skill guys were really freaking good. Their quarterback, no shot at Tommy, was better. Like, just every area of the field their linebackers, the way that they stopped the run, the depth that they've got. You got an offensive lineman go out and your running game completely dies. They've recruited better. They've recruited like a real program. And unfortunately, Florida State just hasn't. And I hate to make this a recruiting thing. I know that we're in the season and I know what people, it doesn't matter until they sign or this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, it was a team that was more talented than you in just about every area. And it calls into question, like, can you ever recruit like that? You could get them in a one-off, like Clemson was more talented than you. And so, like, I get it. But like, if we don't figure out a way, whether it's Norvell or somebody else, and I'm not calling for Norvell's job, but if we don't figure out a way to recruit better, we won't compete with those teams. Now, you'll compete with everybody else in the ACC. You can absolutely do that. But if you don't figure out a way to get true difference type playmakers on your roster, guys like Malachi Toney that can just run past people, and then you pair him with a quarterback who can actually throw, like on this interception, like Tommy had him, he just underthrew the ball, right? He had 2 steps on the cornerback. But to me, the recruiting was what showed up to me the most. That's honestly why I wasn't even that upset. I'm upset where the program is in general. I'm upset that we're 3-2 after the biggest win that we've had in years to open up a season. But I wasn't even really upset with that. You got a more talented team that plays better than you, you're going to lose that 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, and just to shed some extra light on that, who are you competing against every single year? Clemson, currently number 7 in the 247 2025 talent composite, with 7 5-stars on their roster. Then you have Florida at number 12. They have 4 5-stars on their roster. And that's how they beat a team like Texas, because we know it wasn't because of coaching. And I'll continue to take shots at Billy Napier, but he's recruited extremely well. And then Miami's the 15th most talented team in the country, and they have 5 5-stars on their roster. Florida State's down at 19 behind South Carolina with only 1 5-star on their roster. South Carolina has 4 5-stars on their roster, y'all. Like, clearly, roster management has not been very good at Florida State, and you are in year 6, so there's no more excuses whatsoever to try and say, well, he needs some time. If you couldn't build on that 2023 season, then I just don't see this staff as a whole, because everybody knows Gus Malzahn will not be around for a long time. Tony White might be a one and done. Gus and Tony might be one and dones both. You have to find a way to do it, and I don't think it's money. I really don't. Yes, Miami overpays for their roster, but it's paying dividends right now.
Yeah,
like they're seeing a return on investment. I think if you're a good recruiter, like an elite recruiter, you could convince a kid to say, hey, we might only be able to give you, $100,000 less than this school. However, in 3 to 4 years, that's going to exponentially increase by millions. And Florida State has not done a good job selling that. And I think that's a huge problem, because man for man, you just could not line up play by play and beat Miami because they have better players.
Yeah, they I mean, we had to get tricky, right? And eventually the gimmick offense isn't going to work against a great team. And if you're not executing super well, I did think actually, I'm not trying to give Gus so much crap, right? Let's stay on recruiting. I thought the offense was working. We just weren't executing early, right? Like I thought there were times the guys were wide open, but then, I mean, they just didn't have the talent. And ultimately, there has to be some kind of a change to where you can get true difference makers. And listen, they've got they've got really good talent in spots, right? Deuce Robinson's, I think, is really good. I think Chroma is really good. They don't have it in the trenches. Like Carson Beck stood back there like a statue last night and never felt any kind of pressure at all. And that was with us bringing blitzes. That was with us kind of mixing up coverages. They did a great job bowing up. Darrell Jackson was phenomenal last night. And there are some really talented guys. Again, you got Deuce out of the portal. You got Jackson out of the portal. Castellanos, obviously, out of the portal. But they're not even close from a talent profile. Now, they're more talented than Pitt. They're more talented than Wake and Stanford and NC State and Virginia Tech that they'll play this year. Yeah, they've
got one sack last night, TJ. One sack.
Yeah, and not good. Not good.
And that was a linebacker, Blake Nicholson. So
and they'll have a chance against Florida and Clemson. But I'll tell you this, they're not as talented as those teams, and you got to go on the road and play them, you know? And so that'll come down to execution as well. So I don't know, man. I think it's tough to see Florida State. And man, even when Miami was beating Florida State consistently, or very rarely has one team just been so much more insanely talented than the other. And Miami's got one of the best rosters in college football. So I get it, right? Like it's just frustrating when that is your rival that hired a coach after you hired them and has had to turn over a ton of their roster as well. When you think about their skill positions, they've got a whole new wide receiver unit. They've got a whole new secondary. They've got a brand new quarterback. And they're able to just kind of reload. And you're sitting here like, well, yeah, we reloaded from 2-10, but the roster management, the actual players on the field. I mean, and look what's going to happen next year. I mean, you're going to have Tommy back. Maybe if he goes and gets a waiver, you're going to have Darrell Jackson back. No, you're not. You're going to lose 3 or 4 offensive linemen off of this. You're going to have to try and do it again. And there hasn't been enough recruiting in the trenches or really in a lot of places to give you a confidence that they're just going to, oh, well, next year will be better, right? This isn't, football of 15 years ago where you could develop guys and no, I mean, they're going to have to go back to the portal again and see what hits and what doesn't. And hopefully they do a better job than they did this year. But the actual talent acquisition on this staff, it's just not good enough. I saw Jordan, jumping in. Of course, he's going to fight for his guy. And I've got all the respect in the world for Jordan Travis, but talking about how guys are just, paid this, that, the other. Florida State's still got a top NIL in the country. There's no chance that now Miami spends more money. There's no doubt. Florida spends more money. Texas Tech this year spent more money. Oregon spent more money. There's no chance that Florida State doesn't have a top 12 to 15-ish NIL in the country. And you should be able to use that. You should be able to invest in that enough to convince guys to come, right? Like that's not, you're not going to win every battle against Georgia. You're not going to win every battle against Alabama. You're not going to win every battle against Miami, but you should be able to win enough battles. There shouldn't be defensive linemen that end up, committing to Syracuse and committing to Cal and committing to offensive linemen that commit to Georgia Tech over you. Like that just shouldn't be happening. And that's all stuff that's happened within this last 12 months. That has to be better. And if it's not, Mike Norvell ultimately, and we've said this for years, this isn't a new take, but if that's what it is at the end of the day, Mike Norvell ultimately won't be the guy. He will be a consistent 8-4, luck up and win 9 or 10 games once a year, fall off the face of the earth and go 5-7 because you're so reliant on the portal. That will just be what his tenure is until either he or somebody else gets in here and is serious about getting athletes and really good players. I'm not saying we don't have any of those guys. I'm just saying we don't have enough.
So I'm going somewhere with this, but let me ask you this. The 2 best transfers Florida State has, in my opinion, are both on offense. Who are they?
Deuce and I don't know. Do you want to go an offensive lineman or is there somebody else you like a little bit more right now? Sanchez or somebody? Oh, Tommy.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because Malzahn had a relationship already with Tommy and Deuce is a legacy. So if you take those factors out of the equation, who have we brought in? Sawchuk was a good addition, to your point, to bring that up. But that just recruiting has not been good. I mean, Keon Coleman was a phenomenal get. That like you will not find a much better portal get than a Keon Coleman, but that was kind of a once in a coaching lifetime, so to speak, get. So I just it's just frustrating because the portal has kind of dried up for Florida State a little bit. Again, Tommy, I love him. I think he's a very good college quarterback. Fits Malzahn's offense perfectly. But again, Deuce, his dad played at Florida State. He was coming home, so it made sense for him. But who else are you getting? And you're certainly not getting it done at the high school level. I've just stopped paying attention on National Signing Day because we lose our best player every year anyway. So why the hell do I even need to watch the ceremonies when they do the signings? Yeah, it's frustrating. I really like Mike Norvell. He's a amazing person. I think you'll have a hard time finding a coach who loves his players more than he does, but he's just not getting it done. And I don't know the reason for that. Florida State should be an easy brand to sell. When you have the third most talented roster in the state of Florida, and you're one of the big three, that's an issue. You mentioned it back when Florida State and Miami used to have big games all the time with a ton of talent. I think it was the 88 game, over 50 players were drafted in the NFL between both teams. That's crazy to me. I don't know how many players on this team will be drafted. You might get some UDFAs, but less than 10 players from this current roster will probably be drafted.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to guess, I'm right. I mean, Daryl Jackson will get drafted. I think Deuce will probably get drafted. Cromwell will probably get drafted. I don't know if anybody on the offensive line will.
No.
Maybe Pettis could.
Just because his frame, his body size,
yeah,
I think potentially, yeah.
I think it would be a stretch to think.
Nobody in the secondary.
I mean, there might be some young guys like Arno or something.
Potentially,
in a couple of years. Yeah, nobody in the linebacker core would get drafted.
Nobody.
I mean, the Desir twins could form into that. But yeah, like boy, I just named a bunch. Like 10-ish, right? Like you're looking at like 10 guys, and you're counting on some of them to be developed.
And we had 13 drafted in the 2014 NFL draft.
Yeah, the talent
in 1 year alone.
There. Listen. That Miami, boy, I hope not. Knock on wood, right? Manifest this the other way. Miami might win. I think they're going to the playoff, right? Like they're really
they are. Oh, 100%.
And they look like a team with in a field that's wide open. They look like a team that could compete for it all. Like they just do. And so maybe Florida State played a bad game against a great team. And maybe they win the rest of their games on their roster or on their schedule, right? I'm not saying they do, but like maybe, right? And then maybe we'll have a different take. But man, you had such an opportunity at 3-0, and a lot of advantages working your way. And man, you just went out and actually, squandered it. And again, at the end of the day, talent matters, and there's not enough. And I think they'll be fine the next several weeks. You play a lot of teams that have way less talent than you. You should be fine, but we'll see. Maybe not, right? It's easy to say that now. You had more talent than Virginia did. So, all right, let's talk about like the season going forward in just a second, but I will give Sleeper a little bit of love. They have a brand new promotion. If you've been waiting to go to deposit, you do not need to wait any longer. They're offering a free $20 if you use our code. No deposit is necessary. DFNS is their October promotion. You get a free $20 entry for first-time users. They'll also get 100% deposit match up to $100 like normal, but you also get the free $20 without even making a deposit. Talk more about Sleeper on our live on Wednesday when we play the more or less game for the Pittsburgh game, noon kickoff on Saturday. Make sure you check out their terms of use because terms and conditions do apply. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. Go get your free $20 now. Some of you I know have been waiting to deposit and you just didn't want to yet. Now you don't even have to deposit. You can go make some picks on whatever's going on in the NFL, which I haven't watched any of yet today. I see the Bucks tied up with 4 minutes to go, so hopefully they can figure something out here. But Richie, big picture, Florida State stays in the top 25, but just barely at number 25. I actually think that's pretty fair. I don't have a problem with them keeping Florida State. I certainly think they should be ahead of both Penn State and Texas, who were dropped out. Florida State stays in the top 25. Did that surprise you? Did you think they should have been left out, or what were your thoughts there?
I don't think either one would have surprised me. I think anywhere from, I think I put in my group chat with my friends from college that we'd be top 30 if you count others receiving votes. A lot of teams in the top 25 have multiple losses already. So I think that part doesn't surprise me too much. But yeah, I think it's a fair ranking. You know, obviously the Alabama win does hold weight, and that's only going to look better and better as the season goes on. They had another big win against a really good Vanderbilt team. You know, I know people laugh when they think Vanderbilt and what they are, but you know, you still have a 2 touchdown win over a top 10 team in the country. Again, while it wasn't really that close, it was only a 6 point loss to the number 2 team in the country. And your other loss is a double overtime loss on the road on a Friday night, weird circumstances. So I think 25 is probably fair. I would not be mad if they were unranked. And I wouldn't put them much higher than that right now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. I know it's a lot about like when you lost and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you have a loss on the road to number 19 Virginia, and you have a 6 point loss to Miami, right? Who is number 2 in the country. Notre Dame right now is ranked 16th, and they're 3-2 as well. I know it's a lot about when you lost, but they also lost to that Miami team. And then they also, they don't have a great win. And Florida State actually does have a great win. I think you could think like, why is Notre Dame ranked at number 16 when Virginia's 5-1 behind them, when Vandy's 5-1 behind them, when BYU's 5-0? So I think Notre Dame's probably a little bit overranked, but they both have the same record. They're both ranked. And Florida State does have, listen, not trying to sell all the hopes. I think it's a fair ranking. I think if they'd have been 27th, who cares? It's nice to be ranked again for a week. I don't know how much that impacts things, but you play Pitt at noon on Saturday. Did it surprise you? Yeah, I'll bounce another question. Surprise you that Florida State's a 10-point favorite in that?
Not really. Like I said, I think Florida State, back-to-back losses tends to stick out. But what I like about both of these last 2 games, if you're trying to do some sort of positive spin on what happened, is they never quit in either one of those games. They got down big in both of them and fought their way back. And again, Saturday night, last night was kind of, some garbage time stuff, but to make it look closer than it probably was. But at the same time, a year ago, this team would have lost that game probably 45-10. So to only lose 28-22, it sucks. You never want to lose to Miami. But, even that Virginia game last year, if they had got down, was it 21-3 or whatever it was against Virginia early on, they would have folded. So this team has some fighting them. And if they can bounce back and reel together 2, 3, 4 wins in a row, I think this is a team that can still finish in the top 15 of the country. And this might sound crazy. We talked about this off air a little bit. The playoff is not completely off the table yet. They have to run the table, obviously, but it's not completely gone, their hopes as far as that goes.
I agree with that. And I'm not trying to hype that. I don't think Florida State wins out.
I'm not picking it. Yeah.
But if they go 10-2 and you will think Miami keeps winning and Alabama keeps winning, and if Clemson can kind of rebound, if Florida shows a little bit more than, of what they did on Saturday, which I'm not super hopeful for, I think Clemson maybe has a little bit better chance just due to their schedule. Yeah. And Virginia keeps winning. I mean, you've got a great chance, right? And at the end of the day, if you go 10-2, this isn't a team that I have any confidence in winning in the playoffs anyway, unless you just get one, like maybe you get the group of 5 team, or maybe maybe you get kind of lucky with how that falls. But they're not a team that I have big aspirations of them winning a potential playoff game anyway. But so if you go 10-2 and you finish at like 14 and you get kind of a fun bowl game like the Pop-Tart Bowl or something like that, because it's an ACC tie-in, and you can go out and win 10, 11 games in what was a bounce back from a 2-win year, that's great. Honestly, if you go 9-3 and end up in the Pop-Tart Bowl or something like that, which I know you got some bowl projections here that we can talk about in a second. But honestly, I think you have to figure out a way to get over this pretty quickly, because you've got a Pitt team coming in, and we'll talk about them more through the week and on Wednesday. But you've got a Pitt team coming in. They, Vegas is telling you, and they're not the albatross of like, oh, well, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. But you got a Pitt team that you are very capable of beating, but it is also very capable of beating you. So you can't let this loss against a better Miami team derail you from all right, go out and get the win against Pitt because that's what you need to do. Go win the next 2 against Stanford and Wake. If we come back in a month from now and we're starting to talk about that, Virginia Tech or Clemson game, I don't know which one's first, but if we're starting to talk about those games and you're 6-2, you're probably ranked somewhere around like 15 to 18 at worst. And if you're 6-2 and you've got Clemson, Virginia Tech, NC State, and Florida on the schedule, I'm telling you, go 4-0 in that stretch, you're going to the playoff. Like I don't see a way that you're not, especially with the head-to-head against Bama. And if Miami goes out and finally for the first time wins the ACC, there's a lot certainly left to play for.
And to keep things in perspective, TJ, you and I, our previous show, I think we both had us either 7-5 or 8-4, right? 10 wins is still on the table. Sure. I did not expect to say that at this point in the season. Obviously, expectations got reset completely after we beat Alabama, and right or wrong, maybe Alabama just didn't play a good game. Maybe Florida State just Gus Malzahn is the kryptonite for Alabama. Who knows? But to be sitting here at 3-2, if you told me we were 3-2 after 5 games, I'd say, yeah, that makes sense. Probably lost to Bama and Miami. Well, you beat Bama. You lost a road game to Virginia, your first road game of the year on a Friday night. Weird circumstances again, but there's still the season that a lot of Florida State fans had hoped for, including myself, is still out there for the grabbing. Like this doesn't have to be, the perfect season. With 12-0, we probably all had in the back of our mind thoughts about it after that Alabama game. But at the same time, realistically, no Florida State fan should be upset with where we are at right now. Now, if you go on and to finish 6-6, yeah, I'll be pissed because you just squandered a huge win over Alabama, lost to a rival, and that means you probably lose to Florida too if you end up 6-6. So I'm okay with where we're at right now and taking it week by week. You just got to go out there every week and take care of business. The only 2 games left that should even be a possibility of losing would be, to me, Florida because they're more talented and Clemson because they're more talented. That's it.
Yeah. I think 8-4 should absolutely be your floor right now.
Yes.
Like if you finish worse than 8-4 at this point, it is an absolute disaster. And 8-4 really wouldn't make me very happy. I said 9-3 really needed to be what you did. I think you got to go win one of those 2, but you can't drop anywhere else. Here's a super chat. We'll keep this clip going, Harlan, and finish with a final thought on some bull stuff. Facts. Shout out to the Canes fans in here. I know they're probably getting some jokes off. I've seen you guys are pretty upset in the comments. I understand it, guys. Facts. To be fair, they would have given up last season. They did show heart. Last year they gave up down 28-3. Go Canes. Appreciate you for the love. You're right. Congrats on the win. You guys deserved it. You're the better team. You recruited better. Yeah. You've been really, really good. But hey, look at that text I just sent you. look at Lincoln.
The Bucks just tied it up, by the way, and they're probably going to overtime.
See that text I sent you with him? That's hilarious. I would post it if he had a shirt on, but kid never has a shirt on. But my kid is my 3-year-old.
You want to post videos or photos of shirtless toddlers?
Yeah, he does have a diaper on, thank God. But dude, he is locked into the game. I'll send one other. Listen, I will send that to one other person, but not nobody else gets that. Sorry.
No.
But yeah, no, they did. They fought back, and again, appreciate the love. Possible bowl games. What were the 2 you had?
Which so one the 2 for ESPN, it's Mark Schlabach, and I forget the other guy's name, but one of them was Vandy in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, which I think is Nashville. I'm not positive. And the other one, LSU in the Gator Bowl. So I think both of those would be. I'd much rather get LSU because we kind of own them at this point. Because losing to Vandy in a bowl game would be embarrassing, especially when it's a Mayo Bowl. But if we end up in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, I hate mayonnaise. I never have it on any of my sandwiches or anything. I will eat a large spoon of Duke's Mayo live on this show. If
that's hilarious. No,
I'll actually do it unlike the FSU fan who did not eat the dog poop.
So that one's in Charlotte. I got a friend in Nashville that actually is going to get mad at you for fake hyping them coming to Nashville. But I think that's like the Music City Bowl, or that might be Memphis. I don't know. So one of those. No, Music City feels like it would be.
Music City's Nashville.
Yeah, but I don't want to go that far down. I want to win more games than that.
Gator Bowl would be fun. That
Gator
would be a
Bowl
good
would be
one.
fun. Again, I'm holding out hope for the Pop-Tart Bowl. So play a Big 12 team and
it's 5 miles down the road from me. That's what I want for sure.
All for Orlando. Well, that would be the week between Christmas and New. Yeah. It's like right around the 30th, I think, is when that one's always played. So we'll see. A lot to play for. We'll talk about more as the year goes on. Hey, just quickly, Harlan, you can even leave it on this screen. Listen. Do you like this, Richie? Here, I'll stand up. Do you like this shirt?
Is that a T-shirt? Is that the one Mike was wearing yesterday?
Kind of. Yeah, he had the black one on. I got this from Garnet and Gold this weekend.
And his was a short sleeve one. And I tweeted, I'm like, I need this shirt immediately.
GarnetandGold.com or in person. I had another friend that went and got one after he saw me with it on Saturday. I had another friend that was like, hey, can I have that? They were like today, like, can I wear that? And I was like, dude, what do you mean, can you wear that? And I was like, get your own shirt.
Holy shit. Sorry.
Watch your mouth, bro.
The Bucks just picked off the Seahawks with 52 seconds left in plus territory. Sorry, guys.
Baker time. But
Harlan, bleep that out for the pod.
No chance. Just leave it on. But GarnetandGold.com, go get stuff from them. No Slaw, NOSLAW. It works both in person and online. Appreciate them for their support. And again, I love this. Listen, do you still? You're a terrible fan. Where's your FSU stuff? I was given a hard time, not by you, but by somebody else. You still got to wear the FSU stuff after losses. I know you guys are stuff on.
The Magic beat the Heat last night preseason.
Dude, I need the Bucks to win this because all my teams lost today.
I love this shirt. It's play the song with stuff. You can't beat it.
Florida State lost. I was watching Barcelona this morning at breakfast and they lost. And I was just like, all right, I hate everything. So if Baker can do it again, then shout out to him. But that's all I got for today. Again, appreciate Sleeper, appreciate Guthrie's, Garnet and Gold, and then a lot more coming with Tallahassee Ford that we'll tell you about. Richie, any shout outs before we get out of here?
Shout out Tallahassee Ford. Really excited about, whatever this partnership may look like. But like I said, I'm a big Ford guy. My sister, her and her husband both drive Fords, and I know they have a great lot with a lot of good options. So yeah, really, really excited about this new partnership. And honestly, I'm excited for the rest of the season. I really am. Last year I checked out. I'm not checking out just yet.
I had some friends in town that made it to the game. Some other friends of mine kind of took care of them. So my buddies Charles and Allen kind of hooked them up. But some friends I grew up with, Tony and Ashley and Alyssa and a bunch of people came in town. So shout out to them. Shout out to the people that came out to the game, and we had a good time in Tallahassee despite the result. So we will continue to do content, even though all of you are miserable and in a bad mood. So make sure you are subscribed. Clay Fink will do a film review of this. It won't be pretty. It won't be fun, but he will do it one way or the other. And then we will preview Pitt at some point this week too with him. Richie and I will do our preview on Wednesday. We'll go live on Tuesday. Call in and get whatever off your chest. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in and being miserable with us for an hour tonight or 45 minutes tonight. We were quicker. But thank you guys as always. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.